Today, we're going to demonstrate how to set up a test automation service on our computer using Jenkins together with Selenium Grid using Docker containers. This demonstration will use Python as the testing language. On top of that, we will install alert reporting tools to provide better visualization of our test results. First of all, if you haven't installed Docker, let's go to the Docker website to download Docker Desktop for our computer. Note that you should download the correct build of Docker. If you are running your Mac using M1, M2, or M3 processors, select Mac, Apple Silicon. If you are using the older Intel processors, choose Mac, Intel. For other platforms, choose Windows or Linux. After downloading and running the DMG file, we proceed to install Docker by just dropping the program into the Applications folder. Next, we start the terminal app to have access to the command line. Then, in a directory of our choice, we clone our demo repo from GitHub. Let's open up the Docker file to view how we create the Docker image for Jenkins with the latest version of Python. We see that we run the apt-get commands to install Python 3 pip, virtual environment, PyTest and Selenium. Let's look inside the docker-compose.yml file. Inside it, we can see the description of image for containers to be created from, declaration of ports to open, volumes to create and network mappings to use. Notice that the image we use is Selenium, spelt with IUM. If you are using Docker on an ARM-based processor like Mac Silicon, copy over the docker-compose-arm.yml file over the default compose file. That uses the image built for Selenium images, spelt with IARM. We first build our Docker image by using the docker build command. This uses the Dockerfile image and you can see that it pulls in the Jenkins image and then installs Python. Next we run docker compose to pull in the images and set up our containers. Now, if you look at Docker Desktop screen, you can see that the containers are running. Let's open up our web browser and connect to the Jenkins host at port 8080. Notice that it needs the administrator password to log in. So, let's go back to our Docker Desktop, click on our Jenkins container name and look for the generated password. You can see that it's this long string that appears during initialization. Copy and paste it into the text box and click Continue. Next, click on Install Suggested Plugins. Then enter username, password, a name and email. The email doesn't need to be a real email, only one that forms a syntactically valid email. Then click Save and Finish. Next, we click on Manage Jenkins. Click on Plugins. Click on Available Plugins, and in the text box, we search for Shining Panda and Allure. Note, Shining Panda isn't actually necessary in our installation. Then click on Install. Next we need to configure our tools. We scroll down to Add a law command line. Put in a law for the name, and check Install automatically. Then click on Save. Next we click on System. Now what we are going to do is for the use of our code, as our code looks for a special environment variable named Selenium URL. Go down to Global Properties, click on Environment Variables, and click Add. Give the name as selenium_URL and the value as http://seleniumhub:4444/wd/hub. Then click Save. This is so that our code that we write to do UI testing can retrieve the remote URL of the Selenium server to do web browser testing. Finally, we come to creating a build item. From the dashboard, click on New Item. Enter a name for the job, let's call it Demo Build. Even though the text box allows spaces in the name, I would highly recommend not putting spaces in the name as spaces could alter the execution of our commands. We next click OK. We scroll down to Pipeline, then choose Pipeline Script from SCM, Source Code Management. Choose Git for the SCM. The URL of where we put the Jenkins file. Note, it doesn't have to be the same as our test source code, just a place where we put the pipeline script. Set the branch to look for as main and then click Save. We then click on Build Now. Notice, we can actually click on the icon or build number so that it will bring us to the console output, and as you can see, currently it's downloading all of the Python packages specified in requirements.txt into our virtual environment. You can see it's testing. And here you can see the test results, or if you click on a law report you can see the test results in a beautiful law format. Finally, to stop the containers, all you need to do is type docker-compose stop. And you can see our Jenkins has stopped. Docker-compose start to restart it, and you can see our server is back online and our reports are still there. You can also remove the containers by typing docker-compose down and create them again with docker-compose-up-d, and you can see that our data is still there because we are using attached volumes. In summary, the steps to install Jenkins with Selenium Grid and a law on Docker are: 1. Install Docker. 2. Build a Jenkins Docker image with the latest Python version. 3. Run Docker Compose to build containers. 4. Set up Jenkins user. 5. Install and configure a law plugin. 6. Set environment variables. 7. Create build job. 8. Build.